Hello, mamas. Welcome back to another episode of the Reawakened Mom podcast. I am here today with Wendy Babcock, and she is known as the paid stage speaking coach, which I cannot wait to dive into. Before we do, how are you, Wendy?
I am doing great. It's starting to warm up outside here in Wisconsin, and so I'm very happy today.
Awesome. I love to hear it. I don't know if you've been watching, but I've been doing a cold water plunge. It's crazy. But anyways, I've been going and jumping in the water every single day. And it's like today it's like manageable. It's like 40 degrees outside. I'm like, this is like a heat wave.
Right? Love that.
It's
That's
so
so cool.
crazy. Yeah. So I would love if you could just tell a little bit of information to our audience, like who you are, what you do.
Sure.
Maybe if you want to share a little bit of your mom's story, we would love to kind of get to know you a little bit more before we dive into all the speaking stuff.
Right. I mean, so basically, I'm an international and TEDx speaker, author, and of course, like as you said, the paid stage speaking coach. So I teach mainly service-based coaches and entrepreneurs how to get on stage and get paid to speak. And so that's basically sharing your inspirational story, but there's education behind it because we learn from what we go through. And so to get on the stage and teach that, it's kind of a cool place to be.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then how many kids do you have? Tell us about like your home life.
Yeah, so I have two adult daughters, 27 and 24. I have a grandson that's a year and a half and another one on the way.
Oh,
So yeah, we've been in the empty nest era for a little bit now, and we just this past March we moved everything. We sold our house and moved to be closer to the grandbaby. We were 2.5 hours away, and I want to be a very present grandma, and
yeah.
so we moved to the Milwaukee area to be near them, and it's been really it was an interesting choice because I'm moving closer to my grandson and my youngest daughter, but I was basically abandoning my oldest daughter. So there was a lot of guilt with, I'm so sorry I'm leaving you. But like she totally got it because we were 5 minutes apart,
Oh,
So for me to move 2 hours from her, she's like, I totally get it, mom. It's fine. But like I was so excited to be near my youngest and the grandson, but there was this feeling like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm abandoning my oldest child at the same
yeah.
time, you know.
Oh, I love it. Oh, well,
Yeah.
congratulations. That's so
Thank you.
exciting. And you were talking a little bit before we hit record because, you're saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm a TED speaker, an international speaker, all of these amazing things that so many people are like, I could never do that or this is a dream for me." But I
Right.
want to know like how did that start? Because you didn't just like day one sign up to be a TEDx speaker and you were a TEDx speaker, right? Like
Right.
tell us a little bit about your story to get where you are.
It's kind of a crazy journey because I had never aspired to be a speaker. That was the last thing on my radar. And really, I mean, going back to say 2010, I was doing MLM stuff because I was working at a hospital full time. I did medical transcription for years and then I got into medical coding. But around 2010, as I signed up for like a Beachbody coach. So I did that for like 6 years, kind of, that side gig while you're working full time. The girls were in school still, they're going through high school. And moms, you know what it's like. You come home from work, you're trying to do the side gig. You've got the kids got to go to band practice. They were usually in choir, sports. So I felt like a human taxi all the time, driving back and forth. So I was like nonstop busy, and I'm like, there has got to be a freaking better way to
Yeah.
make ends meet too. And my husband was working full time, of course, but so I went from I kind of MLM jumped a little bit. So I did all kinds of stuff. I did the Prove It ketones. I did Visalis shakes, like bunch of different things. And
Yeah.
when you do the MLMs, most of them encourage you to do personal development, right? That's always a big part of it, mindset, whatnot. So I'd be at work doing medical coding and I would listen to audiobooks. And if you know anything about medical coding, a lot of people are like, how in the heck did you do medical coding and listen to a book? But I know I have elements of like ADHD. So I'd be coding, it's matching basically numbers with diagnoses, and it's pretty intensive. But in the back of my mind, I'd be doing my grocery list. Who do I got to pick up? Who's got to go from point A to point B? And so when I listen to audiobooks, it just kind of calmed the back like mind, I guess.
Mm.
Anyhow, so it was January of 2017. I remember the date because of how everything unfolded for me. I'm listening to personal development. It was a book by Pam Grout called E Squared. I believe it was her first book. Anyhow, in the book, she's talking about removing the negativity from your life and how to be more positive and all this. And she mentioned a movement called the Complaint Free World by a man named Will Bowen. And for whatever reason, I stopped the Audible and I just sat with that thought, like a complaint free world. I'm like, well, duh, what's more negative that we do than complain? And then I started thinking about how often I complain. I'm like, holy cow, like there's something here. Like I was so intrigued by this movement. And so on work time, I was Googling what a complaint free world was, who this Will Bowen guy was. And when I went to his social media, the first post, it was January 12th, 2017. He posted, I've been doing this since, 2006 with this movement, traveled all over the globe, and I'm still only reaching a fraction of the population. I want to train people to do what I do, to get on stage and present complaint free world and complaint free business. And I don't know why I applied because again, I wasn't a speaker. I had no, besides like high school forensics, club where you do like you speak and stuff.
Yeah.
But part of me was like, they're not going to pick me, so it's okay to apply because they're not going to pick me. And then like 2 weeks later, guess what? I get a email. We want to interview you with Skype back then. We weren't, all on Zoom back then,
Yeah.
but and then I was one that was chosen. And I was like, how on earth did this happen? you know?
Wow.
Yeah. So he had a 16-week training and basically he handed me an entire speaking business. I had the topic, I had all the know-how, how to get on stages, what to charge. It was
Wow.
pretty crazy to think about, like how that just one day my life completely changed.
Yeah. And so did you leave your career? Did you leave MLMs? Did you kind of still do that behind the scenes? Like how did then once you had that like framework and that
Yeah.
gift in your hand, like how did then you take that and build the speaking business and career that you have now?
Yeah. So I had pretty much had stopped the MLMs by 2017. So I kind of gotten out of it. It was just getting to
Mhm.
be too much work and
Yeah.
not enough payoff. Um, so going through his training, he had everyone come to his home in Kansas City, Missouri, to be certified. So basically, you had to give a presentation in front of everyone who went through the training. There was 10 of us, and there's Will Bowen, the creator of the movement, behind the camera, recording you giving your presentation. Talk about intimidating, right?
Yeah.
And that was in July. So I got certified, and then I started going around to like chambers and schools locally to see if anyone wanted me to present for free to get some, practice.
Mhm.
And then by September, I was like, I need to quit my job. I can't get on these paid stages because they're held during the week. They're during the daytime when I'm working. And I just can't get booked for the paid gigs because I'm working.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of the catalysts was my father had passed away that August. And there's nothing like a death of a close family member to have you reevaluate your life and what you want out of life. And I'm like,
Yeah.
life's too freaking short.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I quit my full-time job that September. And ironically, my husband did the same thing. He had been in his job for 20 years too. And he wanted to start his own catering company. And we both quit our jobs within like 2 weeks of each other.
Wow. Oh my
So
goodness. That had to be crazy in your household. Just like you both
yeah.
have these like steady jobs, like steady, I'm
Yeah.
doing it in air quotes if you're on watching on YouTube, but you have these steady jobs and then to both leave your jobs and you still don't know. Like you're not getting
Yeah.
paid to coach at this time. Like he probably wasn't getting paid to cater. Like you're starting out fresh. Like that must have been, tell me about like, do you remember that? Like how was
Yeah.
that feeling for you?
It was terrifying, but also like it was kind of a high at the same time. Like, oh gosh, I'm free. I can do this. And I hit the ground running. Like I was literally applying for about 100 gigs a week. I would sit
Wow.
down and email 100 event planners every week to get the gigs. And it was a roller coaster. I did gigs and get paid, and then there'd be nothing for a couple months. But I did something that everyone advised me not to in the tax arenas. I pulled my 401k that I had at the hospital, and I had that as a cushion. And I'm so glad we did because we probably would have gone into foreclosure because it,
Wow.
it wasn't, wasn't a get rich quick thing. You have to do your homework. You have to hit the ground running. And it was up and down. I was getting the gigs, and there was nothing. Then I get the gigs and there was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was so glad I pulled that 401k. But again, it was about building that momentum and getting better at giving the presentations and charging my worth. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Will Bowen told me what I should be charging, and I didn't even come close to charging what he said I should be charging. So I'm
Yeah.
like, no one's going to pay me that amount, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so like my first gig, I got $500 when I started charging. I'm like, oh my God, someone just paid me. It was like a 15-minute car drive to the school, $500 for an hour keynote. I'm like, someone just paid me $500 to speak. Like, cool, you
Yeah,
know?
celebrate.
Yeah. And so then I was like, okay, next time I'm going to ask for 750 and see what happens,
Hmm.
And then they were like, yeah, we've got the budget for that. And I was like, holy crap. And they didn't even like negotiate. They're like, yeah, 750, no problem. Cool. So then the next time I went to 1250. And that's how I kept just raising my fee,
Hmm.
and then getting testimonials and getting the momentum going. But it was a slow start. It
Hmm.
wasn't a quit my job and bam, I'm on, 50 stages in the next year. It was rough.
Yeah. Well, and something that I love that you said, which I think just needs to be pointed out too, is that like you had this guru, this man who was like teaching you and telling you this is
Mhm.
what you have to charge. And you were like, I don't feel good about that. And I
Yeah.
love how you listen to yourself because I
Mhm.
think we as women, so many times, or just anyone in general, like someone's telling you to do something, you do it. And it's like, but it doesn't feel good. So you're not successful in that because people know, like, if you don't
Yeah.
feel good about it and you don't feel confident about it, then no one's going to pay you for that because you're like, you're giving off that energy and that vibe. So I love that you gave yourself permission and that anyone that's listening, give yourself permission to, like, yeah, listen to other people, but then do what feels good. Because if you
Yeah.
had maybe gone out and charged whatever, I don't know what he was telling you, but
Yeah.
telling you to start charging, like, you might not be where you are today because like you might have had a lot of people because you didn't feel good about it that were like,
Yeah.
like she doesn't seem confident when she's talking about it. So I love that you listen to yourself about that.
Yeah. And that imposter syndrome will sneak up because I didn't have a lot. And in my mind, I didn't have a lot of experience under my belt. I had done a bunch of free ones, of course, locally, but I just felt like to jump from free to, and he was telling us to charge 2,700,
Wow.
and I'm like, I am not comfortable. There's like, no, I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm worthy of that, which, yeah, the material I'm teaching might have been worthy of that, of course. But like, as far as my experience on the stage, I'm just like, I just need more, you know,
Mhm.
momentum under my feet first. And so I was glad I did it that way,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. So
know?
when people are coming to you now, like, if I was coming to you or a mom that's listening is coming to you and they're like, I just have this calling, like I'm so inspired by what you're saying, or I have something that I want to talk about.
Mhm.
Like, how do you get people started? Because I love how you say like getting paid to speak without selling. Like, wait, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Because like I was in MLM too. So like you feel the sales
Yeah.
pitches, like all these different things, even though we're like, it's of service, you're still selling. Everything you're doing is like a selling, but like
Yeah.
how do you get paid to speak without selling? I want to hear
Yeah.
about that.
Well, there's two main stages you can speak
Okay.
on. If you have programs, products, services, you're probably speaking for free, or you're sponsoring that stage, doing the pay to play, where you pay somebody because it's your ideal audience. That's the sell from the stage, right? You're going to sell a program product, you're going to give a free lead magnet, and that's where you're making your money. It's not guaranteed unless you're really great at what you do.
Yeah.
The paid speaking stage is so much different. And this is why I love it, because it's more about inspiration and education.
Mhm.
So, you're giving a talk that's helping the audience, but there's no pitch at the end. Your call to action is, I want you to implement what I just taught you. That's
Yeah.
your call to action. So to me, there's so much less pressure. So you just get up there, and people are always surprised when I tell them the paid stages come from corporate associations, schools, universities, small businesses. I always ask my audiences, what do you think is the number one topic those places are paying speakers for? And the answers I get are, well, probably leadership, communication, retention, conflict resolution, all these, industry specific type of topics. But the number one topic is inspiration
Mm.
across the board. So, eSpeakers is a platform for speakers, and they have a really great kind of behind the scenes, and they show you what event planners are looking for. And since I've been on there, it's always been inspiration's the number one topic by a mile. And then,
Mm.
of course, you have all the other ones: leadership, health and wellness, all of those other things. Inspiration's huge. And somebody who's thinking about starting out, if you think about it, it makes sense. If you're in a job right now and say, people aren't being super productive, there's gossip in the office, it's maybe a toxic workplace environment. Your boss, the leadership teams are, okay, team, they're trying to give you that pep talk, and we're going to do better. We're going to communicate better. It falls on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Like, some people might want to implement it, but it kind of falls on deaf ears. But when they bring in a speaker, it's fresh blood. It's somebody with these incredibly inspirational stories with education weaved in there, and people leave wanting to do something different.
Yeah.
So someone starting out, it's that inspirational story with education and some entertainment too, of course, you know.
Mm. Oh, so do you like karaoke when you're up there?
Right? No, no, definitely not karaoke, but I mean, just keeping it light, telling entertaining stories, whether they're, you know, deeper personal stories or they're jokes,
Mm.
whether just adding humor to your presentation and engagement. So that's the entertainment piece. But yeah, it'd be funny if I did, you know, karaoke too with it.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I love it. So is that e-speakers? Is that something like anyone can get into? Is it like a paid group or a membership or a website, or how do people like get into that?
So e-speakers, it's a platform for speakers to basically advertise themselves.
Okay.
Just like Speaker Hub, it can be free or paid. Just somebody who's speaking, if you go out there, you can set up a profile so you can tell people about yourself, tell them about what you're going to speak on, how much you want to charge, where you'll travel to. You can put pictures up, videos of you speaking, just a great platform. And I utilize the free ones for that because for a non-celebrity, of course, they're pushing the celebrity speakers because they get a percentage of it, right? I like it because they have great Google SEO. So if someone searches, my name, that's one of the sites that'll come up, because I have a profile on there. So
Oh,
I
cool.
utilize it for that. And plus, it just makes you look more professional that you're on those speaker sites.
Yeah. So what would you say would be like the first step if someone's like, I want to be a speaker. Yay. What do I do? Like, is it coming up with like a topic to talk about, like coming up with like a catchy title, like kind of writing out what they want to talk about, or just kind of diving in and sending messages to all these like school districts and chambers and all the things and just
Right.
jump right in?
So number one is you have to have a signature talk. And that's like you said, you touched on the topic. And what I tell people to do is if you're not sure, okay, like, yeah, I want to be a speaker. I've got some inspirational stories, but where do I start? I would say brainstorm all the things that you could speak on, right? They're going to have a list of things because even people like myself who I have a signature talk, I can speak on a bunch of other topics as well. But the signature talk really sets you up as an expert in that area. So brainstorm ideas of things that you could speak about for, let's say, 45 to 60 minutes. It's basically that topic you're really passionate about where, I can go on about, getting paid to speak where someone's like, okay, shut up. So it's those topics where basically you can talk forever about. And so brainstorm those and then go back and kind of circle your top three. And then from there, you can narrow it down and say, okay, push comes to shove. Which one of these would I be most excited to talk about that would maybe fit into the arena of paid speaking or inspirational speaking? And that's the first place the jumping off spot is there, the topic,
Yeah.
and then the next part of that, so you have your signature talk. Um, the next part of after you have the topic is brainstorming again. What does my audience need to know about this topic? Write down all the things that you need to teach them. So now you have your topic, you've got all the things you need to teach them. Then what I do is I always attach a story to a lesson.
Yeah.
So when you're teaching a teaching point, write down again brainstorming stories that go with all of these, come up with a great opening, a great closing. Once you have that talk, there's a few different things you definitely need to have. You need to have a website or a landing page. Doesn't have to be fancy, just a page that shows, your bio, your talk, a headshot, how they can contact you. It doesn't have to be fancy when you're starting. You need to have a way to email and track who you're emailing, a contract, a media kit, and an invoicing system. So, I mean, there's certain things you have to have in place before you start reaching out. But I mean, most of it's not that hard to really get together. Just having that signature talk is number one,
Yeah.
and then you can kind of fill in the gaps with the other things.
I love that. That's very helpful because I think some people, myself included, I love to talk, but it's like, well, I don't know if I could be a signature speaker or I don't know if I
Yeah.
could be a keynote. But when you really, I love that brainstorming idea. Like when you really think, like, what things could I really talk about? What things could, and it's using your past experience, right?
Yeah.
Like if people are like, well, like you said, like, I never knew I was going to be a speaker. Like this wasn't part of my vision for myself if I
Yeah.
was creating a vision board. So many people out there might be in the medical field, might be educators, like it could
Yeah.
be a mechanic. Like it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone has some kind of story or talk that they could potentially share or learn how to share it appropriately or how to get that inspiration out there. So I
Yeah.
love that brainstorming because even if you think I have nothing I could talk about, I bet when you actually like dig in and then you have someone
Yeah.
that can help like you, that's where you can really dive into that.
Yeah. And I tell people too, if they're really stuck on that, I tell them to think about really difficult times in their life, things that they have come through. And what did you learn from that? Like, what was the pivot that you made? So for me, I've gone through childhood and domestic abuse. And so I've had lots of challenges there. And even as a mom, I became a single mom at 31, which
Mm,
was really hard with two small kids. And I thought, okay, what are some lessons that I had to learn going through that? And can I share my experience to help someone else who might be going through that now, like for me in hindsight, to help them get through it a little easier because I already went through it. So
mhm.
there's a talk there.
Yeah.
There's things that I implemented, personal development and really trying to refine myself again. And there's lots of things that I could talk on because of those challenges that I went through in my life. Maybe somebody got fired from a job, had to find a new, there's a challenge you went through that you had to figure out how to get through it. And now in hindsight, what could you teach to help someone else now go through that same situation and make it easier for them?
Yeah, that's so powerful. I was just listening to a podcast episode and it's these three guys that are talking and they're friends and they're all actors and comedians. But the one guy was saying, like, I got fired from this pilot and I was so upset about it. And the guy was like, dude, like, why are you upset? Like, you're gonna be like the fifth male lead, like, like whatever. And then like 6 months later, he got this huge gig that like everybody knows him for. So
Yeah.
it's just like you never know in your life, like you could be in the most down moment in your life, but there could be something better for you waiting on the other side. And like that's
Yeah.
the story, like that's your talk, like that's what you can share. And I think so many times, like, when you watch social media and see all these things, it's like everyone's sharing all the highlights and all the glamour and the beauty and look how successful I am or look at this. And it's so important to continue to talk. And that's why I love to share it on here too. Like, yeah, but where did you start? Like, what have you come
Yeah.
through? Because that's really where the good stuff is, I think.
Yeah. And I love autobiographies and biographies besides personal development. I'm a very nonfiction type of reader. Currently, I'm listening to Henry Winkler's story. So we know
Ooh.
Henry Winkler is the Fonz, right? He almost wasn't the Fonz because he almost didn't even go into audition for it because he didn't think he was going to be right for the part. So he just said that he went in there with this idea that he wasn't going to get it. So he didn't care. And he threw out this like crazy kind of, the way he talked and stuff. Like he just was like, I don't care. I'm not going to get it. I'm like this scrawny guy. He didn't think he was attractive at all. He's like, I'm not the guy from this part. So he just kind of went in there and left it all on the table because he just thought he wasn't going to get it and they loved him. Well, I
Mm,
shouldn't say they loved him. One person loved him, not
yeah.
everybody, but that's how he became the Fonz.
Wow. That's
So he
so
was doing all
cool.
these other like auditions and smaller stuff, but like who knew that one where he thought there's no way I'm going to get this, so I don't care. I don't care if
Mhm.
they think it's stupid. He just kind of, so I don't even know where the voice came out of. He said, I just did this, and then everyone knows him now as the Fonz.
Yeah. And I think that's just a testament to just, in things in life too. It's like, don't put so much effort on like that outcome. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we put so much pressure on us to be the top, to get the job, to do this, to do the best, to get all the things, be all the things. But it's like, but if you're just present and you're there and you're enjoying the audition or you're enjoying the conversation or you're enjoying this talk, it's like that's where the magic happens. And like releasing all that pressure of like that expectation of like, I gotta get it. I got to win. I got to do it. I just think that makes such a world of difference too. And you can just be like free and natural and like who you are.
Yeah. And I always tell people you're going to get a lot more no's before you get that yes. But usually the yeses are so much more aligned than any of those no's were that you were trying for,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that can catapult you to your next thing. And who knows what that's going to look like.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, I just have to make this note because if you're listening to the podcast, like make sure you go over to the YouTube channel because you have to see Wendy's background because like her like disco ball and like her awesome sparkly microphone. It's just so fun. I love talking to you and being able to see you because it's a great visual effect. I just love it.
Thank you. It's funny because I had a coach for a brief time who was like, what's with your background? And it's before I had the disco ball and stuff, but I had things that were like more my personality, not so much about my business. She's like, well, that doesn't make sense. You have to get rid of that. And I'm like, I don't know though, so I didn't listen to this. So now I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to put in behind me what makes sense for me because I am
Yeah.
all about the disco ball and glitter and having fun. So I'm like it. And the duck is from my coach that I have now. She covered our vehicle in ducks because we have a Jeep. So she covered it in ducks. So I'm like, you know what? And it's got sunglasses on, so it's
Yeah.
representative too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I like to just be exactly who I am, and regardless what sometimes what the pros tell you.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything that you haven't shared that you feel like is on your heart or that you really want to get out to the mamas that are listening today?
Yeah, I think especially as myself, I was really questioning myself when I came across Will Bowen's post. And I just had this, I don't know what stirred up inside me. I can't even really explain it, but there was like someone really not just tapping me on the shoulder, but kind of punching me in the back,
Mm,
like apply. And I couldn't explain why it didn't make sense. It's like when you get that nudge, the poke, or the someone that really like kind of punching you in the back, like take that step. I know it's scary, but like there's a quote that says, life begins just outside your comfort zone. And
mhm.
sometimes it's this step, even putting your toe in the water when you're getting that nudge to kind of trust your gut,
Mhm.
and take that step and just faith and just see where it takes you.
Yeah, it's that feeling like I get it in my stomach where it's
Yeah.
almost like I feel like I'm going to be sick and then like my throat automatically starts tightening and that's
Yeah.
when I know like I'm on the right track.
Yeah. And it can feel scary and we can talk
Yeah.
ourselves out of that in a hurry. Like we can, make sense or try to rationalize, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, this is the only scripted question I do on every single episode, but
Okay.
we as women don't celebrate ourselves enough and show ourselves love. So I always love to know what is something that you love about yourself right now?
Oh, wow. I love that I'm starting to really shake my imposter syndrome around coaching because going from speaking on stages to now teaching it, there was imposter syndrome that snuck up like, oh gosh, do I really know? Do I have enough information to really teach this? But then when I start getting in my coaching sessions and I'm at that place where I tell people, I just can't shut up about it. Like I just want to like give people like everything I possibly know. And I'm like, I do know this stuff.
Hmm.
So I feel like I'm really getting past that imposter syndrome in my coaching business now, where I'm like, no, I know what I'm talking about, and it's a
Yeah.
it's a really great feeling even to say it out loud.
Yeah.
you know,
Awesome.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
can people find you if they are looking to get in touch with you or find out information about speaking or just kind of follow you? Like, what's the best place to go?
So I'm on Facebook a lot. So just Wendy Babcock, and I'll come up. Otherwise, my website is wendybabcockspeaks.com. That's a great way to find me there. Those are the main two places. I'm on TikTok, but not for business. I'm on there as Gertie Glitterbottom, and
Wait, what is it?
Gertie Glitterbottom. So this came from a 9 foot inflatable giraffe costume that I have that I like to put on occasion and do weird funny stuff. But I haven't made Gertie content in a while, so my content's all over the place. But I just like to get on there and be silly. But like
Yeah.
I've gained like 21,000 followers. I mean, it's just something fun to do,
So
and
fun.
yeah. So
Oh,
maybe you
I
can
love
follow me there if you don't want business stuff, just something to laugh at. I usually have just silly content.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I will make sure this all goes in the show notes. So if
Awesome.
people are like, I don't know how to spell that, or she spoke too fast, or what did you say, glitter or something? So it'll be
Yeah.
in the show notes. Go find it there. That way you can find Wendy all over the place and laugh at all the funny things that she does too. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today and sharing just your journey and how awesome that has been and unexpected at the same time. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for having me, Melissa. This is great. I'm just excited to be on your podcast for one and reach more people.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.